Hello, everybody. This is Robin Vogel again. I am your host for Goddess Rising to the Summit online conversation with many beautiful, beautiful experts that are all teachers, friends, colleagues, and amazing, in this case, women in the world, engaging in the conversation about the divine feminine and how she is rising at this time. And today I'm really honored to have my spiritual teacher and friend, Maureen Whitehouse. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So great to be here.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
I love
Maureen,
the topic. I love
yeah.
the whole premise of the summit. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited. The energy is like so rising as we approach the date for launch, where we get to share this with so many people around the world. I
Yeah.
love our topic today, why honoring the divine feminine is the fast path to enlightenment.
Yes.
Very intriguing for many and so true, to be honest. And it would be great. What I'm really hoping for in today's conversation is to help our listeners really understand what that means in a very
I
practical
always
way.
like to go to the top of the mountain and start at the finish line, and then you can work your way back, because it's fun to clarify where we're going with all of these things. And so with all of our spiritual practice and all of our intentionality, it's great to know where we're going.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
So I truly believe we're waking up, and we really need to wake up as a human race. And it's something that's happening, and it's at the forefront for people. And you can just feel the zeitgeist in the world, how often there'll be now where things can be awful that are happening on a large scale, like wars, but there's an awareness about it now. Outside of the bubble of chaos or confusion, you can feel that people are rising and seeing things from the mile-high view often. And that comes with awareness, that comes with a greater capacity to be more than just this person in a physical body stuck in a world that often has chaos and confusion as its theme. Yeah.
It's so important to be able to go up to the top and look down and have greater perspective. And it
And
also
look down.
challenge when you're in it, when you're in the micro.
Exactly. And think about it. Everybody knows this as you feel your own experiences throughout your lifetime. Any pain that you've ever experienced or any confusion you've ever experienced was associated with this identity of being a body. Feel pain. It has to do with our human body. So this is really important, because I love that we're talking about the divine feminine in what I perceive as a bigger and more powerful energy than a feminine body. So we're taking that feminine energy to an enlightened perspective, that in the world of the divine, there is only is. There's no this or that. There's no male or female. There's one, and it's the absolute. And so if we're looking at how the divine of us would perceive the divine feminine, it would be the energy that we feel innately is connected to a flow. And so if everybody, man, woman, child, if everyone could really feel this flow and connect with it and tap into it, then we'd all be in that energy that feels like an embrace, like a divine mother embrace. And we wouldn't feel separate from that. So we wouldn't be as prone to look at the chaos of the world and feel like, what's going on? Or that anxiety that's promoted by looking at headlines or things like that. We'd feel ourselves being tapped in to a flow of energy that's literally a flow of grace and connectivity. And it's the oneness of creation. When we're tapped into that, we innately feel very powerful. We feel the energy of that as healing, as insightful, as aware and enlightened. You're lighter in your perspective. You can get that mile high view. And so I love this, that we're looking at it as women, but to see this as not just something that we embody. It's really what everyone on the planet wants to be intimately connected to. And that is amazing, because women in feminine bodies and people who identify with being a woman in a physical woman's body, now we can see that there's always been a greater strength there than was being acknowledged by just looking at our physicality. It's the intuitive power of being tapped in and knowing that if you're tapped in, it's like going downstream. You can pick and choose from the things that are on the side of the riverbank, and life comes to you, not at you. It's sort of like, it's a nice row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. Literally, we're dreaming a dream of separation in our physical bodies. But in reality, we can't be separate from the divine. It's all a big temper tantrum of our egos saying we want it this way. If we connect to this part of us, and so let me make this a little practical now. To connect to the divine feminine of us, there are several ways to do this that are taught throughout every spiritual tradition. Get still and get quiet. That could be by going to nature, or laying on the ground in a park, or letting yourself be in a meditative state. It could be by loving and cuddling your baby or a pet. It could be anything that promotes that feeling of connectivity on the deepest level. We're so fortunate as women because there's an innate really need for this kind of connectivity. It's not about conquering the outside world as much. In our truly connected state, we feel like it's not conquering the world, it's embracing the world. It's allowing for us to get out there in a way that we really engage with everything fully, and don't apologize for having this capacity to stay so connected that we might be innately more wise than many people in the picture while we're connected, but not apologizing for that. So number one way to connect, get still. In any way, shape, or form, taking a bath, getting near water, being near the flow as much as possible. You know, I don't say this often, but I had an awakening experience and left my body and came back. But the way that it came about, and why the title of the talk is Love and Miracles, is because I had done A Course in Miracles for so many years and done the lessons. I tried my hardest to do them to a T, which is kind of impossible. It's, you know, saying you're the light of the world. If you don't believe it, you're not going to know it. It's a knowing, not a belief. But I got to the end and I realized I had forgiven everyone. And I realized then that there was one person left to forgive, and it was me, that I was the common denominator in all the drama or problems in my life. And that I could now see it differently, like that I could be connected to the divine. I could really wholly surrender to the divine. And it wasn't just a thought, it was a full bodied commitment. And that night I went to bed, and it was very interesting because up until that point, and I don't usually say this part of things, but we're in such a beautiful sacred group here. I had menstrual cramps, and I had them really, really bad, like debilitating for many, many years, for starting with my, 16. And so this time I started to feel, I woke up at 3:00 in the morning. I looked at the clock, and I started to feel the cramps. And I said, well, I believe in miracles. I had just had a blissful experience of having forgiven my world. And I said, heal this. And I went shooting out of my body and wound up in the heart of God. And had the experience of a classic near-death experience where I saw my whole life and I saw all the problems I had experienced, and that the only problem, one solution, was that I thought I wasn't divine. And so I came out of that. I was breathless in a state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I only quantified that years later in India, like just what happened to me. And when I came back, I was in a place where I took my first breath and I was on fire, this fire that people talk about with the divine feminine, that it's that connectivity. If we were as connected to the divine as we could all possibly be, we'd all be in a state of ecstasy always at the low point. And so here I am without a capacity to think because I'm just on fire and I know the divine is real and my past is renewed. There's no care for the future because I know the divine is real now firsthand. And so it puts you smack in the present. Went to the mirror to kind of compose myself, to splash water on my face. And when I looked up, I saw myself without a body. I saw myself looking back at me with the eyes that were so loving that I never saw such love in my life before. That's what I'm talking about as the divine that we all are. And the first realization in seeing that was, is that who I really am? That's everyone. I knew it wasn't me. And from that moment on, that's all I could see in other people, is that we live a dimmed down version of who we really are, out of trying to keep ourselves safe and secure as humans. But we have this core of us that's absolutely the light, brilliant. So the interesting thing is that after years later, maybe 4 or 5 years later, with The Power of Now came out, 6 years later, and I had been living in this enlightened state for a long time, hadn't seen many teachers who were talked about living enlightenment. So when I first heard about Eckhart Tolle, before anyone knew about him, for a few years before people knew about him, I read The Power of Now, and in there, I read a little passage that he wrote. If people go back and look at the question and answer format of The Power of Now, he said, someone asked something about this topic, I think about the divine feminine or something, and he said, many women will be waking up on the cusp of their menses. And I thought, how does he know that? How does he know that? And it's very interesting. Now, I know that. I know why. Because our core is our power center. And we need this power center of the divine feminine to be fully empowered. And feel where all these gut issues that everybody's having, men and women, all these gut issues everyone's having now is because we hold back our power. This is our core, our gut. We know intuition is not here. It's from our hearts down. And I held that back my whole life. I dimmed down. I was maybe a little too smart for, don't look too smart. Don't look too pretty. Don't look too, and I'll make a dimmed down version of myself that's acceptable to people because my radar was so honed for what other people thought.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then I went into a world of being a model. Come on, how much more can you highlight? No, I had to wake up. That's the reason I woke up, is because that was untenable. Caring about what people think that much and denying your own power. So my message here is that it's not, the fun thing about this is it's not an activity that we're doing to get this. We already have it. It's an inactivity. It's the stopping, holding back all of the flow of who we truly are as we flow into life with such authenticity and such grace and such beauty and such nurturance that the world needs now. So I love that it might be that, the old things of the meek shall inherit the earth, or the last shall be first. In the way things are set up in society, it has been that, the women were the meek and the women were the ones behind the men. But watch what just happened, how the soccer team for women is now going to be paid equal and all the same benefits and all the same everything as men. I love that as a symbol, because this is not about a militancy or a feminist movement. This is about playing the divine Leela. This game of life now needs to be oriented more towards this flow and towards the fun and the joy and the delight that we embody when we're fully connected to the divine. So I said just one thing, meditation. Another one's just exhale a lot. Feel that we're on such an inhale all the time in life. Headlines and our to-do lists and our obligations and our work and everything's like, now it's time to exhale. And you know, that experience of awakening, that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it's the exhale. I didn't inhale for hours. I exhaled for the first time. Those hours of exhaling and being breathless was me having my whole life prior to that. You know, how many inhales had I taken without an exhale? Took 3 full straight hours of exhale to be able to get to a place where I was now who I truly am. And I believe I know that's all of us, that we are really truly meant to be in a divine flow of grace. And we're already perfect. That's the best part of this. We already are. The divine feminine at its utmost highest radiance already is. It's already there, just waiting for us to embody it fully. And the more we embody it, the more we let go to it, the more radiant, the more beautiful, the more amazing, the more captivating, the more brilliant and honest and glorious you'll be. It's not something you have to do steps to get to. It's a relaxation into who we already are. So does that feel as though it's tangible enough? I know you, and I love your groundedness to bring things like these really elevated concepts into practicality and into everyday life.
Right. So yeah, so my mind, you said meditation get still in some way, and then exhale. And I'm thinking even more practically, because I know what it was like for me. And I remember saying this to you years ago. How do you stop a moving train? I remember asking that. How do you stop a moving train? I couldn't even think or conceptualize or perceive, honestly, how to stop all the motion in my life at that time, maybe whenever that was, 5-10 years ago, let's say, or 5-10 years ago. And it felt like the train was moving. Trains move really fast. It felt like the train was moving 80 to 100 miles an hour or faster, with work, with family, with mothering, with living. And these principles were familiar to me, and like I heard them, and I would very intentionally actually work to taking them in energetically, because I knew I needed to do that it wasn't just coming into my mind and my brain, because my ego was going to bat everything away anyway, because that's what it does, right? So I knew I needed to absorb them on different levels. So I invite our listeners to do the same. And I had this question, like, how do I stop this moving train? I know it can feel really impossible sometimes.
Yeah. So here's how. I have a great answer for that. You really can't. It's the same as when you have a car at the top of a hill, and if you put on the brake at the top of the hill, no problem. Maybe it moved an inch. But when the car starts going down the hill, and say it's 3/4 of the way down, the moving train, and you step in front of the car or try to stop it, it has momentum now. So that's why meditation and stillness are the opposite of trying to stop a moving train. They step you out of that path of thinking entirely at best. So what I would say, an easy way in practical terms, if you find that your life is like an incessant moving train of negative or self-effacing thoughts or things that you really truly don't want to live anymore, then the best thing to do is just do the opposite of that for just a little while. Go have fun. Go eat the forbidden food that you normally wouldn't have and enjoy every single bit of it. Do it mindfully. Let yourself be in a place where you do what feels like the most spontaneously fun thing to do. Because now you're not in that runaway train mode or that moving car mode anymore. You're in a completely different realm entirely. Get out of the baseball park that has all the shards of glass on it and stop playing in that field and go to a completely different field. Get to a place where the grass is green and the birds are singing and the trees are beautiful, and just feel that and embrace that. We think we have to work at this. Again, you can't work at a runaway train mind. You're just going to enforce it even more powerfully. So it's get out of your own way in a way that you can feel that you're really doing something kind and loving, and as true divine feminine beings, nurturing. We crave the nurturance that we give to so many other people. And if that's the source of our runaway train, that our radar is always out on who can we help, or what can we do, or how can we perform, or how can we look good in this situation, or the eyes are always out. Now it's time to look inwardly and feel and see and sense, what's the most nurturing thing I can do for myself right now? What way could I take this gift of the divine feminine and turn it inward towards myself, and let myself really show up in a way that let the world will still spin, the world will still carry on, the drama and the headlines will be there next week, next year, if you pick it up. I had about 12 years where I didn't look at the media at all. And so every so often, if I needed to know or see something, I might pass one of those news boxes on the street and I'd see a headline and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Or every time that there's a massive headline happening, it's in the ethers. And by the time people talk about it, you hear it enough that you know it's something. And then you just ask somebody. And by that time, they're captivated by this person doesn't know what's going on in the world 3 weeks later, because you've heard it enough in the ethers. And they love to tell you the story that by that time has evolved multiple times. And then you can sit back and assess it from a place of objectivity rather than be so caught up in everything. Not only objectivity, again, spacious mind, connected being. The moment that we stop evaluating the mind or overvaluing the mind, then we can sink down into our heart and into that core of us that is highly intuitive, that tells us where to go, what to do, what to say, and to whom. And then if we will to do it, this is where our willpower is in our core and nothing more, then we wind up in a state of grace. So let me give you that as the third step. So meditation would be one of being connected. Number two would be if we find ourselves in a fun space, in a beautiful space, just away from, truly deliberately away from the normal pace of life or mayhem or anything that feels uncomfortable, that moving train. And number three is, here's a prayer that I've modified from A Course in Miracles that in A Course in Miracles, Jesus says is the most powerful prayer. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to say and to whom, and I will to do it and nothing more. And the reason why that's so powerful is because we talked about, where the cramps would come from, where the holding back would come from. This is our mind, our heart, and our will is in our core. When we surrender that will to the divine with a capital W, and now we are in service of the divine, our own divinity, not something outside of us, but our divinity, our own individual divinity, if you can call it that, since it's oneness, but our own experience of divinity is peace. If we literally just followed the voice of peace all day long, the voice of peace within us, we would be connected to this divine self. We'd be in the throes of this divine ecstasy of being our true selves and fully embraced by the divine every minute of every day. That's as good as it gets, but we all have that capacity. We just have to let go to it. It's there for everyone. If you're breathing, you have a spirit, came in with your first breath, it'll leave with your last. If you're breathing on planet Earth, you're animated by the divine. If you relax and connect with that, everything is perfect.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Maureen. Thank you. I'm going to share 10 seconds of a practical piece before we close here. And that is that when people are trying something new, and I'm reminded of this while you were speaking, I often suggest that they take a day, like Saturday when they're not working, to practice the prayer you gave, the invitation, to practice the stillness, to protect, just sort of dedicate and devote the day or 2 hours or some time period that's very tangible, so that our listeners and everybody can take the tools that you gave that were so beautiful and are so powerful, I know from my personal experience, and just dedicate some practice time basically. And that's a way to
Awesome.
very tangibly incorporate these beautiful tools that are so impactful, and then expand from there. Expand from
Yeah,
there.
awesome. And the gift that I'm giving for everyone is called The Miracle Worker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a little tongue in cheek because I want this to be fun, not so intense. And the subtitle is a conscious guide for a spiritual guide for conscious evolutionaries. And I really mean that we are living, breathing miracles. We knew this the day we were born. It didn't stop there. We have continued to be miraculous, and miracles are exchanged between humans. That's the realm of the miraculous, is this earth. So get on board with that, get the ebook and enjoy that experience of getting on board. And it'll be the inroad into this full embodiment of this amazing capacity to be an enlightened, divine, feminine being. No matter what body you're in, male, female, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So awesome. Thank you so much, Maureen. This has been amazing. I'm so grateful for the gift, The Miracle Worker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love the title.
And they just have to go to Miracle Worker. It's miracleworkersguide.com.
Yeah, I will definitely provide that to everybody.
Great. Okay, great.
In an email, so they can just click on it and go right to the ebook and claim that gift. Thank you so much for offering that to us.
All right.
And thank you so much for being here and sharing your teachings. It's so beautiful.
Well, enjoy a blissful day wherever you are, evening, wherever you are. It's the only way to be. Just be in bliss.
Yes, and yes. Thank you so much. Lots of love to you and to everybody, and see everybody next time.
Now,